Richie, 13-0 last year. I feel like that's going to be hard to top, but Florida State's getting some love in a lot of places. We're going to talk about where they're getting some love, where they maybe aren't getting as much love, and look at what this upcoming year may be. It all starts in Dublin, just a few months away. What are we in, May right now? June, July, August, a little over 3 months from now. About 100 days.
It's crazy.
If you think about it from that perspective, we will be taking on Georgia Tech. And I've seen a lot of talk about this line. I've seen a lot of talk about how this is set, Richie. Is Florida State as a 2-touchdown favorite, 13? I know that's a little below 2 touchdowns, but let's say we miss an extra point to end the game, or we just kneel it because we wouldn't miss it. We kneel it to just win by 13 to troll Mario. Florida State by 13, losing 10 NFL guys, is that and I know that the travel gets canceled out for both teams, but is that a little disrespectful to Georgia Tech?
I might be betting Georgia Tech. 13 is a lot.
Well, I'm taking the Noles. I'm taking the Noles, so it doesn't matter. But
in that scenario, I think, man, and we'll get through. We have 5 more games that we do have lines on from a official Vegas sportsbook. We won't say who it is because they do not sponsor the show. But man, 13 seems like a lot for a season opener with a completely revamped roster, right? You said we lost 10 guys to the draft, a couple others to undrafted free agency. Man, I'd like Florida State to win this game. I would not be spending all this money and flying to Dublin if I thought we were going to lose. But my goodness, 13 points. Yeah, TJ, I think that's disrespectful for the Yellow Jackets.
Okay, so I heard a take this week, and I'm going to repeat it, and I'll even tell you where I heard it from. So I heard it from Barrett Silly on his new podcast, College Football Smothered and Covered. And he didn't love the line either, right? He thought it was a little bit high. But what he did say was that line is incredibly – it speaks incredibly well and incredibly highly of Mike Norvell. And if we say and we believe, and we talked about this in another video, I think we're going to talk about it in another video or episode coming up soon. But if we say that Mike Norvell is a top 5 coach in this sport, and we say that Florida State has a top 15 roster in college football, top 10, I don't know how, if you want to do it just by recruiting rankings, if you want to do it by, the portal and development and stuff, it's somewhere between probably 8 and 13. If we're saying that they're a top, that's a top 10% program. There's 130 teams, right?
Yeah.
You're saying they're in the top 10%. You're a neutral site game. You're a top 5 coach. You've got a former 5-star quarterback who, though he has been up and down, is still leagues better than what you're going to see. I don't know if 2 touchdowns is that big of a deal, right? I know that's a lot for an opener and travel and what could happen and all that, but I think it just shows a lot of respect for what Mike Norvell is building. Yeah. I think when you look at the rosters, when you look at the brands, everything else, I think it kind of makes some sense. Now, I'm not trying to talk you into betting on Florida State or anything like that, but I think when you really, will it shock you if we lead the whole game by 10 and kick a field goal late to to ice the game, right? Because 10 wouldn't, if it was 10, you'd take it, right? If it was Florida State 9.5, you'd take it.
Easy money.
So I don't know. I think you're kind of split, not you, but I think if you're saying, 10, 13, I think that's just where we are. And this is where Florida State needs to be. Florida State needs to be on the other side of some crooked number spreads from now on, some double-digit spreads from now on, because too long we've been fooling around with this junk where we're playing somebody like Syracuse or BC or UNC or anyone not named Clemson or Miami or Florida, and the spread's been close. And those days need to be done. And so, I don't know. I'm taking the Noles minus 13 here. Harlan, start to write these down. Let's see who what are we in our May, our Mother's Day May predictions.
so I'm not taking an official stance either way, but
no. We're as of today, let's bet on it just between me and you. Let's see who gets more of these.
As of today,
I will get right back to chatting with Richie, but first I've got an important question for you. Have you ever Googled yourself? Have you ever Googled your name, your phone number, your email, your address? Well, I did that recently, and as you can see on the screen, what comes up is maybe not the most comforting thing. And in fact, when I Googled myself, I instantly felt vulnerable and was worried about my private info ending up in the wrong hands. Data brokers sell your personal information to scammers and spammers, and people may target you negatively. All of your info is out there. That's why I've been using Aura. Aura is sponsoring today's video, and they show me which data brokers are selling my info. They also automatically submit opt-out requests for me. They help me clean up my information and reduce the amount of spam that I get. I don't know if you guys saw this, but recently AT&T said that over 73 million customer records, that's both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. Now, they recommended that those affected use strong passwords, monitor their account, and consider either credit freezes or fraud alerts from the credit bureau. Well, Aura does all of this for me. And best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company like AT&T couldn't keep my data secure. Now, if my info was compromised in an AT&T data breach or any breach like that, I wouldn't worry. Aura is always on, and they're always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I value my privacy, and I also value yours as a listener and follower of Double Fries No Slaw. You can go to aura.com/FSU and start a free 2-week trial right now. I've linked that in the description. With Aura, you not only get the credit monitoring, the data monitoring, they also give you access to antivirus, VPN, a password manager, and more. There's not a better deal out there. Go to aura.com/FSU and take advantage of our deal today.
I'll take Florida State to cover.
All right, we'll both take them.
I'll take them.
See, I talked you into it a little bit, but also we're not really betting.
But then 8 days later, they're flying across the pond from Dublin back to Tallahassee to take on Boston College, where they're favored by 23, a game that gave us all heartburn last year, TJ. I remember sitting on the couch. I was on a bachelor party, and we are all Florida State grads, and just freaking the heck out about what is going on. This guy, Castellanos, is just killing us. 23-point favorites. This is one I will take BC on the spread, by the way.
Yeah, this one's crazy. To me, this is crazier than the 13 against Georgia Tech, just because I don't know. I wouldn't take Georgia Tech minus 10 against Boston College neutral field right now. Like, I think I'd take BC in the points. Yeah. So, like, if that's how I'm doing it, this is crazier to me than the Georgia Tech one.
Coming 4 touchdowns, international flight.
4 scores is a lot, man. Like, that's a lot of points. And so I can talk myself into like, oh, we could be up by 9 and score a late touchdown and cover against Georgia Tech. Like I could talk myself into that. You're not backdoor covering this. I mean, I guess you could, right? Like you can be up 17 and score, but like that's a lot of points. Now, that said, Boston College is a dumpster fire with a brand new coach. Florida State will have had I'll play devil's advocate for you. Florida State will have had the warm-up game, right? Playing in Dublin, and you saw what they did with that a couple of years ago, playing at LSU after they had Duquesne. I do think that helped them a lot. And so I think that'll help. You got a brand new coach, brand new system. Boston College lost a ton. I expect them to be bottom 2 or 3 in the ACC, maybe excluding some of the newer additions. But I think Boston College is going to be really, really bad. And again, if you're Florida State, if you took the Dublin trip out of it, if you took like the fact that they're playing across the pond, I think that this spread would be fine. The thing that worries me is Dublin. Again, caveat to that, it's actually 9 days because it's on Labor Day night. So you're getting 2 extra days to get over that jet lag. And again, I think it's much easier to come back this way from Dublin as opposed to having to go 6 hours the other way. So I don't worry about that quite as much. I know they'll be jet lagged. You'll get a couple of days to get over that. And then you get until Monday night. Again, inside a Doak, probably at 1-0. Man, 23 is so many points. I'll take Boston College plus 23. Like I'll do all that talking, but
all that to agree that that's
I have the Noles winning that comfortably. Like I'm not nervous about that game. I'm not,
not at all.
I don't think it'll be like last year. I mean, you remember last year, even in that game, we were up by like 17 or 21 or something, and it kind of just like snowballed out of control. Like they were dominating that game too. I think we dropped like a 3rd and 10 or something, like 15 yards down the field. And had we caught that, it would have been, like midfield. You're up by 3 scores. You probably just started to salt it away at that point. drop that, they get a long punt return. That kind of started snowballing from there. The fumble 6, all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't think it'll be close. I don't think you'll have the heartburn last year like you had last year. I don't think the red bandana will make an appearance, which is always a good thing. Though I respect it, I hate playing in it. And I think we'll win, but 23 is a lot. So, all right, here's one that I think I'm going to take the points on this too. Florida State's a 4-point favorite at home against Clemson.
Yeah.
I think, okay, I was having a conversation with somebody about this on Friday. Yeah.
I'm not concerned about this game, TJ.
Yeah, you're not concerned?
Not really.
No, I think this is the toughest game on the schedule.
I disagree. I think
I
is.
think when we do our schedule rankings later, at least for right now, to me, this is the toughest game. And I think it was the toughest game you played last year, too. I think you...
Oh, you saw it in overtime, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, went to overtime. You kind of needed, I don't want to say a lucky play, but you just needed something to break just right for you, like the most miraculous play of the season by Kalen DeLoach for you to have a chance to win this game. So outside of that, I mean, they kicked the field goal to go up 10 there at the start of the fourth. Like, this thing's, I don't want to say over, but like, obviously we didn't score again. And so, yeah, Florida State -4 against Clemson. I think I would take Clemson with the points there, just because like I could see the Noles winning by like 3. So like I like the points there with Clemson. And I'm not necessarily picking Clemson to win that game, but to me it's our toughest game. To me again, I think it'd be really tough to. I don't know. I think Clemson's got a 50-50 chance of winning that game. I think they dominated us in a lot of aspects last year.
Yeah, they should have won.
And so I'm going to need to see us take a pretty big step. I'm going to need DJ to have like a revenge game. I'd love to be wrong here, but I mean, if I'm getting 4 points with Clemson at this point, I'll probably just take it. I'm interested to see what that line looks like once we get to it. But 4 points right now for Clemson, I'll do it. Richie?
I'm never a guy that's going to bet these way early lines because so much can
no.
change.
Just here on the show
happen. Yeah, for sure. But if I were to bet today, I would take Florida State because I just think, you look at Dabo. What has he done in the portal? He's brought in 0 players. He has lost 13 players. Like, what is his roster going to look like? He's going to have a full scholarship, 85, whatever. But how many players deserve scholarships? Is Dabo training for the NFL? Is he going to have 53 scholarship-worthy players? I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. I just don't trust it. I think Florida State's in a much better position than Clemson. I think this past year we passed them. Honestly, I think Clemson was probably the better team when we played that game, but we had the better players to go out and make those plays like Keon did in overtime to win that game. And Jordan Travis, shout out the New York Jets, going up and throwing that pass. But man, I'm not worried about Clemson. Like it will be a tough game, and I'm sure when we do our preview show for that game that Wednesday night before Clemson, I will be nervous as could be because I always am. But right now, sitting here on Mother's Day 2024, a couple months before the season, I don't think that's our toughest game. I truly think Miami's our toughest game, and I think that's what we're going to talk about next.
Yeah. So Richie's got us covering the spread there. I've got Clemson.
Yeah.
So I've got Florida State covering this one. So as of right now, Florida State -1.5. Yeah, I do think this is going to be an extremely tough game. I think it's either the second or third toughest game. We'll talk about the other one that I think we all kind of have up there. We have a bunch: Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame. We'll talk about them. But
tough schedule.
Yeah,
for an ACC team, right?
Yeah.
Not to crap on the ACC, but it's a tough schedule.
It is, yeah. No, I think Miami's going to be a lot better this year. I think they're going to be much improved.
Yeah.
I think they have way too many holes, and they're going to lose 3 or 4 games. I think they're going to go 9-3 or 8-4. I think one of those losses is Florida State. And so if I get the Noles minus essentially even money, now we could win this game by 1, and I could lose on the hook. But if I'm essentially getting FSU at even money, I think the crowd factor is less on the road at Miami. Because you got plenty of FSU fans there as well. Florida State -1.5. I'll take us to cover that. At least as of now, like we may, they may be 8-0 when we play them then, and it might be Miami -7 or something crazy. But as of right now, if I'm getting 1.5, I need to see them win a lot. I mean, it's a team coming off. I mean, they have 13 wins over the last. I'm sorry, they have 12 wins over the last 2 years. Like not sweating that just yet, right? Like I need to see them win before I'm betting on them. So yeah, Florida State minus 1.5. I'll take the Noles.
When I see a spread that close, CJ, I immediately look at the head coach and think, okay, the head coach could potentially decide the outcome of this game. It's not going to swing in Mario's favor if history tells us anything. Like he is not a good game day coach. He will develop or not develop, but compile an elite roster. That's what he does. He did it at Oregon. He's done it at Miami. He recruits extremely well. But on game day, look no further than the Georgia Tech game last year, where he wanted to get his running back 100 yards. What does he do? He loses the game because of that. He's just not a good game day coach. I trust Mike Norvell, who has never lost against Miami when he's been on the sidelines coaching against them. I think Florida State wins this game, but I do think this, in my opinion, this is our toughest game. We'll get to what I think is our second toughest game here very shortly. But I do think this will be our toughest game just based on the talent that he has compiled at Miami. But I think when it comes to game day, I don't trust Mario at all. And I do trust Mike Norvell a heck of a lot. And Florida State will win that game. So I will take Florida State. We might win 31-30, which would suck because we lose the spread there. Right?
Wouldn't suck me.
But
wouldn't suck for me, bro.
But I'm taking Mike and the Noles to cover the 1.5 points.
Here's one that I am very conflicted on. I'm going to make you go first on this one and see if I can either want to argue with you or agree with you. But Florida State plus 3.5 at Notre Dame. Man, I think I'm selling on Notre Dame this year. I don't think I'm I don't think I'm as high on them as other people are. Now, I know the last time we went up there and played in that absolutely brutal weather in November,
I left at halftime.
I get what that can do. But I just don't think Notre Dame is going to be as good as people think. But I'll let you go first on this one. Florida State, 3.5 point underdogs at Notre Dame as of today.
Give me Florida State in the points, and I think they win this game. I'm not going to say convincingly, but I'm not going to go to Chicago because I'm going to Dublin. But I think this is a game where Florida State wins convincingly. Marcus Freeman has done a great job at Notre Dame. I think he's a really good coach, but I think he's just not on Mike Norvell's level. And Mike Norvell's going to have this team ready. It sucks that it's kind of late in the year, so it might be a little cold, but it's not going to be.
It's going to be cold.
It's not going to be like we were when we went up there in 2018, I think you said. I was there. We left at halftime. It was so cold. It was like 26 degrees. It's not
it's the same time of year. It might be.
It probably won't be. Even if it is, man, like I just really think Mike Norvell, I'm all in on this guy. And, there's a reason Alabama wanted two coaches, Kalen DeBoer and Mike Norvell, because Mike Norvell is one of the best coaches in the country. And I don't think their roster is far and away better than ours. I think we go up there and win. I might put me down, Harlan, for taking the money line on this game.
Cheating. Yeah, I certainly like us with the points. I mean, 3.5. We'll see what it is. Obviously, when we've got a lot of game between now and then.
Yeah, that number will change a lot.
It'll be huge, a huge difference on a lot of these games by the time we get to it. But man, at plus 3.5 right now, like I've got to make a bet. I'm taking FSU because I just don't think Notre Dame's going to be that good. Spoiler or fun fact: do you know that DJ Uiagalelei has threw for more yards than any other quarterback ever thrown against Notre Dame in that year that Trevor had to sit out of the game? And so, yeah, I'm not necessarily saying he does that, but I'm just not sold on their quarterback. They got the transfer from Duke, Riley Leonard. I'm not sold on they weren't good last year, and I don't think they got much better. I like the Noles to probably
we played
go up
Riley
there
Leonard last year. Did not impact us at all.
Yeah,
I know he wasn't entirely healthy, but still, he was a non-factor.
Yeah, I just don't really worry about Notre Dame. Now, they do play better at home, and they do play well in the cold, and that's something that Florida State is going to have to get over. But I still like Florida State here. All right, and then we'll finish up with this one. I feel like this is a big number 2, but being at home and maybe playing a team without a coach, Florida State a 12.5 point favorite against Florida. Man, I feel like that's high because even with Jordan and you played them at home a couple of years ago, you won by 7, right? And then last year with a couple of backups, I feel like they always play you tough, just like Miami does. And so I don't know. I'd probably take the 12.5 at this point, but you might be playing them already having quit. You might be playing them. I hope that nothing happens to either of our quarterbacks again this year. But, a lot of people forget Graham Mertz took a beating all year last year. Like, they were getting him killed. And I don't know that their offensive line's even any better. So you might end up with you could be playing a backup again in this thing. You could be playing a bunch of guys that are already making draft decisions because their team's 3-8. There'd be a lot of scenarios where this could end up happening. But man, if they're at full strength and they're 5-7 or something trying to play for a bowl game, I think they're going to fight their tails off for Billy's job, for a bowl, for embarrassment, for pride, for everything else, just like they did last year. And with a third string quarterback, or second string quarterback, they couldn't get it done. If they're healthy and they have Mertz and stuff and they're fighting for anything, even if it is just Billy's job, I think they're going to play really hard. I take Florida at plus 12.5 here. Now, if Billy's gone, Mertz is banged up, the team's already checked out, yeah, I like the Noles to win by a ton. But I think this early, I think I'd take Florida because that's just a ton of points.
They have a brutal stretch to end the season. To me, I can't say one way or the other. If you were to ask me today, based on what I think might happen, I'm probably taking Florida State. So Harlan put it down for Florida State on this one to cover the spread. But to me, it all comes down to the Miami game to open the season. If they lose that game, yeah, I think that spread jumps up to maybe 16.5 or plus. It could get ugly, but if Florida wins that game and they go on a streak, because the early part of their schedule, they could start off 5-0, 6-1. But man, that back half of the schedule with LSU, Georgia, Florida State, it could get rough, right? And if Billy's fighting for his life, I think if they're 5-6 or even 6-5, I think Billy's done at that point. They're just going to say, all right, we're done here. We're moving on. Yeah, but I'll take Florida State on the spread at this point right now, knowing what we know right now.
Yeah. So, all right, let me know down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me know down below what I've got the Noles going 3-3 against the spread here. I've got, Boston College covering. I've got Clemson covering. I've got Florida covering. I think Richie has us. The only game is Boston College is the game that he doesn't like us to cover, and everywhere else I think he's got us. So 5-1
not a
Richie.
Homer, not a homer at all.
Yeah, 5-1 Richie, 3-3 me. But I'd love to be wrong on that. So